Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Just outside of Turn 5, a sign proudly declares Road America as America's national park of speed, and it's really hard to put forward a counter-argument. With a layout that's largely unchanged since its mid-1950s debut, this 4-mile course has played host to some of the country's most prominent road racing championships. Highlights include the IndyCar Series, NASCAR, both the Cup and Xfinity Series, IMSA, and the GT World Challenge America. And then, if you just mention this track to any driver, I'm sure they will be able to reel off their personal highlights of this track. Its mix of both long straights and tricky braking zones make this track the ideal location for some enthralling racing. And today, Road America plays host to round 7 of the Shake and Bake Elite Euro Series. My name is Sebastian Boscher-Williams. Alongside me in the production booth is John Robertson. And what a race do we have in store for you today. Qualifying done and dusted, it's fair to say. Everybody getting their laps in fairly early on today. And as you can see from the Road America track map, we've got the information up on your screen. We've got a little bit of a different layout today. Taking a little bit of a difference as you head towards the kink corner. Normally a flat out right-hander today. But a little bit of a chicane instead should make for a little bit more interesting racing. And maybe just another opportunity for these drivers to make some overtakes. I cannot wait to get this one underway. So 10 minutes of qualifying have passed with 15 minutes allotted for the drivers today. Casey Waters, he's out on the track, currently in second place, 3/10 away from Gunter in the pole. Hoyo's third, Clark in fourth, with Massachuski in fifth place. He turned up very late to practice. So late, in fact, he didn't manage to get in a single lap. So very much on the back foot is the 93 Mercedes. Ralph Crowder, the 58 Mercedes. Where can he put his car? 8th on the grid at the moment, 1.3 seconds off Shively. Not the best lap time there for Crowder. Pulls back into the pit, so I think his qualifying very much done and dusted as well. Spencer Clark, the number 92, the highest BMW, in fact the only BMW in today's race. Where can he improve to? I don't really think he's setting the timing screens alight on this lap. In fact, even if he was, the lap will not count. Only 2 laps allowed in this qualifying session today. He certainly not really got a lot of opportunity to improve too much or let the tyres, in fact, come up to temperature. And Spencer Clark pulls into the pit lane. And that is his qualifying session well and truly over. And he will start from 4th on the grid today. Casey Waters in 2nd as well. He has done all the laps that he can, just getting in a little bit more practice before the start of the race. Really crucial just to see how the car develops, how the tyres develop over a stint or even a few laps. These GT3 tyres, very, very sensitive to temperature changes, and Casey also decides to come into the pits. So I'm joined in the commentary booth with John Robertson, our producer, and also our commentator today. John, I just want to ask you just a simple question. You know, we've got a pit stop in today's race. How difficult is the pit entry around Road America?
I'll be honest, I have never done a race around Road America, so I don't know. But I can say from watching that it's uphill, so it's very difficult to spot the cones, which mark the beginning of the pit lane. And you quite often see drivers clipping the grass just to the left of the entrance as well. So it's very easy to make a mistake around there. Very easy to overshoot and just get a little speeding penalty.
You're right, it's so easy to get a speeding penalty. Drivers are going to have to be so careful. Waters once again heading back out on to the track. Nothing to stop you just lapping away. What it means is that it won't count. You won't be able to improve your qualifying time. So Waters 3.5 tenths away from Gunter on the pole position. The highest non-Mercedes car, in fact. And that Audi going very nicely around this Road America circuit. Of course, one of the oldest GT3s on the service, but still preferred by many a GT3 driver. It's got some really unique characteristics, does the Audi R8, and who can say anything? Yeah, who can say anything about the V10? Such an amazing engine. No, here onto the brakes into turn number 5. We head through the carousel. So this is all fairly normal. I was going to say it's turn 5. I'm just going through turn 8. This is turns 9 and 10 up towards turn 11. What should be turn 11 at the kink, but in fact, instead of turning right, we very much turn left. The first part of the apex and then open up the steering on the exit down the straight, which becomes a little bit longer, but you actually have less speed. The kink, you know, as I said, it's a flat out left-hander in normal racing conditions, but Waters not able really to take as much speed. So braking for Canada Corner turn 12 becomes just that little bit easier, less speed, less momentum to take off the car as you stamp on the brakes. Through turn 13, Bill Mitchell bend, and then the very tricky final corner, turn 14. So easy to make a mistake, run a little bit wide onto the grass and either ruin your qualifying lap that you are on or simply lose positions in the race. There was the VSTA race that we covered here on Apex Racing TV. If anybody tuned in for that, you knew or you saw that turn 14 was a hot spot of action. Many drivers falling foul of the final corner, but that is qualifying done and dusted. We can bring you your grid, your 10 car grid, I should say, for today's race. And Brody Gunter for Goldmine Racing takes the pole position. The number 1 car starting on the number 1 slot. 2-minute 12.807 to his name. And Casey Waters in 2nd place. I say 2 1s definitely make a 2. 3 tenths off the pole position. Still in with a shot today. John Hoyos in 3rd. 4 tenths off Brody Gunter, with Spencer Clark joining him alongside him, I should say, on the 2nd row. Brandon Wojciechowski in 5th place, 7 tenths off Gunter. Those two are the championship rivals, so really interesting to see Brandon not really finding the pace around this Road America circuit at the moment. Nathan Tetzloff in 6th, David Shively 7th, Ralph Crowder in 8th place, Charlie McCarty in 9th, with Ashley Hancock in 10th place. And last, I think McCarty and Hancock both did not complete a qualifying lap, but the pace car pulls in and we get ready to go racing here today. All eyes are on the Mercedes on the left-hand side of your screen. A very early start there from Brody Gunter. They cross the start-finish line. Green flag flies, and a superb start from your pole sitter as they head down towards turn 1. It's 2x2 in the background. That's over third place. Spencer Clark and John Hoyos having a little bit of a battle on the inside of the Mercedes. The BMW trying to go all the way around the outside. The number 92 of Spencer Clark trying to make up a position down the inside, though. Looks the fourth place man, John Hoyos. Spencer Clark gaining a position. Hoyos losing out. But up front, Brody Gunter doing an absolutely superb job. Got the jump on the field, but Casey Waters not saying or not taking no for an answer. Really closing that gap. To the inside goes the number 93. Late under brakes into turn number 5. Runs out the 42 just a little bit. And they're still side by side as we head down towards turn number 6. Just can't get away through. So it's Brody Gunter, Waters, Clark and Majowski now up into 4th place. Oh, car off in the background there. Huge incident. That's Davis Shively falling foul of the exit of turn number 7. But a fairly clean start so far. Ralph Crowder coming under pressure from Ashley Hancock, but Majowski with the great start up into 4th place. Spencer Clark up ahead of him. And will we see Majowski back on the podium? Can he almost recover from his, well, you have to say, for him, a poor qualifying effort? Well, we've got just under 45 minutes to find out. McCarthy, that's Tetzloff, sorry, going very slow on the exit. Another driver in the background, another Mercedes, I think, falling foul of the unusual chicane layout here. Tetzloff running very, very wide, but gets away with it. Loses a place, and this man on your screen at the moment, the number 1 car, Brody Gunter, 8/10 separates himself and Waters in 2nd. An absolutely great start here today for your pole sitter. And John, great start. We saw, lots of action, not too much carnage, which you tend to see at Road America. How crucial do you think the slipstream is going to be around here tonight?
It's always huge around this track. Obviously, these huge straights, you often see that cars that maybe aren't quite on the pace of the leaders will be able to hang on just because of that slipstream. But it also equally can create these draft trains which can limit the amount of overtaking you see. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure in this race.
Certainly will be. So Gunter being caught at the moment by Waters. Waters had a very, very tidy first sector. And now what can he do in the slipstream? Can't find a way through down into the braking zone of turn 5. But Waters seems to be the quicker driver at this phase of the race. Only 2 laps gone so far. Still a very long time. Down the inside looks Majowski on Clark. Majowski making that move, so the driver that started in 5th all the way up into 3rd place. Clark a little bit defenseless there, didn't really want to fight it, but Hoyos in the background, he's trying to make hay just like Majowski is doing. And that just goes to show you, even with Majowski not having much practice today, he's still a force to be reckoned with on the track. Through the carousel they go for the 2nd time. Spencer Clark braking just a little bit later than the Mercedes up ahead of him. Can't find a way through. See the tyre marks on the outside of the turn 11 kink there. Clearly a few drivers falling foul of the chicane. Let's say it's not really a very common layout. Tend to only really race the configuration with the flat out kink. So I think, drivers will be struggling a little bit. And that was Hoyos in the background, really struggling through Canada corner. McCarthy capitalizes on that mistake. Hoyos now up into 6th place. Sorry, Hoyos down into 6th place, I should say. McCarthy up into 5th. And Tetzloff now really on the back of Hoyos. Through turn 14, the final corner we go. And now down the straight, Mercedes power versus Mercedes power. So not going to find any engine power advantage, but Tetzloff certainly does have the slipstream. We'll have about 5 or 10 kilometers an hour greater speed in a straight line just due to Hoyos pushing his way through the clean air. Teslov cannot find a way through though as they head through turn 1. Look at that in the background. Hancock as well, the only Ferrari driver, in fact the only non-German manufacturer in today's race, just starting to catch up on this battle. If Hoyos and Tetzloff continue to squabble for a few more laps, I think we could see Hancock very much getting involved in the action. Coming down into turn 5, the downhill braking zone. Tetzloff, that's the cleanest run out of the three, you have to say. McCarthy a little bit wide, but Hoyos substantially deep under brakes. What's happened though to Waters? He was once pressuring Gunter, but Waters under pressure from Majowski. Majowski, oh, and runs a little bit wide there for Waters. This is going to be a great opportunity for Brandon to make his way through. Can't really go all the way around the outside of turns 9 and 10 of the carousel, but Brandon will be set up perfectly to get the slingshot out of the carousel. Can he send it to the inside as they head towards the turn 11 chicane? Majowski, though, just has to concede for now, but can he get a better run out? It's very much Mercedes traction versus Audi traction, and that Mercedes looks oh so rapid at this phase of the race. Brandon in the slipstream is going to pull out on Casey Waters. Can he make the move into Canada corner? Waters, I thought, was going to defend to the inside there. Didn't feel the need, and rightly so. Waters remains in second place, but Gunter just running up the field at the moment. The gap is now 2.4 seconds. And Majowski, what can he do? Does he really want to fight early on? Does he want to risk it all? Does he want to risk it for the proverbial chocolate biscuit, or does he mind just sitting behind Waters, maybe saving a little bit of fuel, really managing those risks? He's in the slipstream. I think we're going to find out the answer to that question. Majowski pulls to the outside. They're side by side into the braking zone of turn 1. Waters concedes, and Majowski, after starting in 5th, up into 2nd. Oh, there's a spinner in the background. That's Gunter off the track. So is Casey Waters, our top 2 at the start of the race, falling down the order. There's going to be a huge accident there. Gunter goes absolutely flying in the air. Contact, I think, between himself and Crowder, I do believe that was. And what has happened to our former race leader, Gunter, in the pits? I think that is his race done and dusted. I think it was Hoyos maybe actually that made contact. Hancock and all of that is now up into 5th place. Majowski now leads from Clark. McCarthy in 3rd, Tetzloff in 4th. And my lord, what has transpired here today? Minute 7 of our 45-minute race, and Waters really recovering to the track. I don't see too much damage on that Audi car. Let's have a look at a replay and try and unpick what has happened. So Gunter has already spun. So has he just made a mistake and then going to be collected in... I think Hoyos was a little bit unsighted there. Who was that? It was the 6th place man. Just trying to find out who that was involved. Unfortunately, all of these Mercedes have got fairly similar liveries, so it's a little bit hard as a commentator to try and work out who exactly was involved. So Gunter heading down towards turn 1. So you see in the background, Majowski and Waters battling it out. Gunter runs a little bit wide. Oh, touches the inside wall with quite a rate of speed. And then I think Waters has just simply done the same. So that's the top 3 going through. So that's Clark, and yeah, huge drama. And Casey Waters still recovering. Tetzloff and McCarthy scrapping it out down towards Canada corner, turn number 12. Tetzloff makes it all the way around the outside, gets a whole chunk of oversteer on the exit for good measure, but Tetzloff now into the final podium places. Clark running away. 7 seconds separates Tetzloff and Clark, with Majowski very firmly back into the race lead. But John, what a crazy start. I mean, who would have thought the top 2 making the same mistake into the same corner on the same lap? You couldn't make it up. Yeah,
I'm just as surprised as you are. When I saw the 2 cars facing the wrong way, I thought one of them must have been a lap car, but no, it was the race leader. But I mean, it's kind of like you say, like, you got these long straights at this track, and you got these big braking zones at the end of them, and it's so easy just to misjudge it by the tiniest amount. And you see what happens when you clip the grass. The car just goes round on you, and you've really got no chance of saving it.
I said in qualifying that turn 14 is where you tend to see drivers running wide, touching the grass, and ending up in a collision. Not normally a turn one, but caught two of our drivers out. But we see more today. That's very, very leery for Tetzloff. That's the second time we've seen Tetzloff really struggling with oversteer. Canada corner, 1 lap ago. I wonder if those tyres are just a little bit warm at this stage. Takes a little bit of grass through the apex of turn 7 for good measure. Stamp on the brakes for turn 8. Not really an overtaking opportunity unless you're feeling very, very adventurous. This time it was McCarthy's turn just to get a little bit wide on the exit of turn 8. The grass always close to the edge of the track. Such a threat for these drivers. And now into the braking zone of the turn 11 chicane. Almost feels like a corner that you very much just have to survive. You just have to get through it, try and not lose as much time as possible. I think Crowder is off the track at the moment. He's losing a whole chunk of time to Hancock. Crowder in 6th place there. In fact, is Ralph Crowder, the number 58 Mercedes. He's falling down the order. Oh, runs wide on the exit of the turn 11 chicane. We saw the tyre marks and we saw drivers doing that earlier on. We have another victim of turn 11. And Crowder returns to the track. Waters now promoted back up into 6th place after that spin at turn 1. Brody Gunter as well. He's back on the track, so he's taken his one and only fast repair. Basically, it's almost a brand new car. The fast repair mechanic in iRacing is a way to get you back into the race. It just instantly fixes all damage on the car. So Gunter taking that opportunity, but Majowski, race couldn't really have gone much better for him. Started in 5th after joining the race session very, very late. Didn't get any laps in practice in, was only 5th in qualifying, but finds himself after just over, or just under, I should say, 12 minutes of racing in the lead. And what will the rest of the race have in store for him? McCarthy on Tetzloff. McCarthy to the inside. Whoa, that's a little bit dirty there from McCarthy. Waited a little bit longer than maybe Tetzloff was anticipating to turn in, really forcing Tetzloff just to wait. Very Sebastian Vettel-esque. McCarthy inherits that 3rd place. John Hoyos is off the track. I think that's at the turn 11 chicane. Yes, it is. I think maybe misjudged his braking zone a little bit on the entrance. Manages to collect up the car, but Gunter is right behind him. Our pole sitter in qualifying. So Gunter, we know he's got the 1 lap speed. So what can he do, and how quickly, you have to say, can he dispatch Hoyos in 8th place? But John, I mean, he's got such a difficult task ahead of him, his Brody Gunter. 1 minute and 17 seconds between Hoyos and Crowder. I mean, Gunter's ideally the best place he's looking at today is 8th.
Perhaps, but like you said, he's got the pace. He's shown that in qualifying, and he's already on the back of the pack. You know, that's very quick for him to get back on the back of the pack from the incident that he had. I think anything could happen in this race. It's a long race. We've seen that mistakes can happen. This track is very tricky mentally on you. You've got the grass right there on the edge of every corner. As we've seen from Gunter, just clip it a little bit and you're going to lose a lot of time. So I do think this race could end up being a race of attrition when we get to the closing stages of it.
Race of attrition. I quite like the idea of that. Not too much action on the track at the moment. It's very much all between McCarthy and Tetzloff for that 3rd place, with Hancock once again with 2 Mercedes fighting up ahead of him, just looming large in that Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. What will Tetzloff do? Heading down towards turn number 3. It's the 2nd major corner on the track, but it's noted in the track map and all the track documentation is turn 3, and then this is technically turn number 4, even though it's a little bit of a straight. But you can get into a debate about, you know, whether or how corners are named and given numbers. Tetzloff cannot find a way through into turn 5, could not do what McCarthy did 1 lap ago, heading up towards the uphill braking zone of turn 6. Tetzloff still remains in 4th place. McCarthy extending that gap to 0.6 of a second. Can McCarthy just pull away? Can McCarthy almost leave Tetzloff into the clutches of Hancock. Hancock runs wide through turn number 8, and that's put any pace really to the battle between Tetzloff and Hancock, at least for the time being. Hancock just making those mistakes. It's not what he needs to do. He just needs to play it cool, play it safe, and end up in a really good position. Gunter and Hoyos, a battle over 8th place. What can he do? Rounds turn 14, fairly even, but now he will gain the benefit of the slipstream down the straight. See, he's already in 4th gear, pulls into 5th. He's going to pull to the inside if Hoyos allows. Hoyos defends to the inside. It's going to make this hard for Gunter. Gunter's going to have to go all the way around the outside. They head down towards the braking zone of turn 1. Gunter brakes a little bit earlier, allows Hoyos to maybe outbrake himself, but no, Hoyos manages to get that car slowed down towards the apex, and Gunter still remains in 9th place behind Hoyos. Hoyos doing an absolutely superb job at this phase of the race to keep our pole sitter behind him, but down towards turn 5, we've seen moves happen here already today. Gunter picks up a little bit of the grass, tries to force the issue, tries to force Hoyos to go the outside, has a little bit of a look down the inside, but Hoyos runs a little bit deep, got a little bit leery, and I think this could be Gunter's opportunity to make his way through. They're side by side, but Gunter just has to pull out. It doesn't feel brave enough to send it up the inside of turn 7. Hoyos still remains in 8th place, Gunter in 9th. And all while these two are battling, they're still in fact gaining on Crowder. So far gained a 2nd in the last lap. But you have to question how much more time could they be gaining on the pack up ahead of them if they weren't squabbling over 8th and 9th. And although Hoyos is doing, a commendable job at keeping Gunter behind, you have to really question the necessity, I should say, of defending from Gunter. Gunter was the pole sitter. He was leading the race until that unfortunate mistake for the number 1 car. And Hoyos always just needs to follow him through, use his slipstream. It's clear that Hoyos has got, a lot of pace in that car. He can keep Gunter behind him, so maybe just allow Gunter to get past, use the slipstream, and play the tactical long game. As they head through turns 13 towards the braking zone of the final corner. Hoyos very neat and tidy. Gunter kicking up a little bit of grass once again. Not the first time we've seen Gunter really start to play with the extremities of the track limits. Really going by the motto, if I've paid for it, I'm going to use every single millimetre of the track and more. Through turn 1 looks fairly even from your battle for 8th place. Wojciechowski up front, the gap now 5 seconds between himself and Clark. Last lap, Clark was 0.7 of a second slower than Wojciechowski. Hoyos, though, under pressure once again from Gunter down towards turn 5. We saw Hoyos make a mistake one lap ago at this very corner. Gunter pulls out to the inside, tries to get him under brakes, brakes later. Can he get the car slowed down? Yes, he can, neatly towards the apex, and Gunter now up into 8th place. And I think that John, do you get the feeling that Gunter was expecting that move to be a little bit easier than it was? It took him a fair few laps to get it done.
I know I certainly was. Looking at the pace difference before they kind of got together, and I think Gunter was maybe 2 seconds a lap quicker. So for Hoyos to hold him off for that long, especially we've been saying about the draft here, it really is quite powerful. So for it to take that long for him to make the move, it's a good job by Hoyos for sure. But it's like he was saying, they have lost time to, well, not lost time to the pack ahead, but they could have been gaining more. And that's just going to stunt Gunter's progress a little bit.
It certainly will. I think, yeah, Gunter really feels like, he's got a really uphill battle to get into any more places, but we'll have to see. Crowder into the pits, actually the driver directly ahead of Brody Gunter. So Crowder deciding to take his pit stop nice and early. I do believe he'll be able to get to the end of the race on the fuel that he's put into the car. So Crowder deciding to pit early, deciding to throw the strategic dice, as it were, And Crowder definitely comes out ahead of Gunter. So Crowder still in 7th place, Gunter 8th. And I think all eyes will be on Ralph Crowder, the number 58 Mercedes. What can he do in the next half of the race? A little bit wide, a little bit leery through turn 3. Crowder really struggling with his tyres. You expect them to be a little bit colder actually when they come into the pits. You normally have a lot of grip on your opening lap. It almost takes you by surprise, you know, because the tyres have cooled down and they're almost back to their perfect operating window. So you pull out of the pits and you turn into the first corner and you believe that you've got a lot more grip. So you start pushing and then you can start making a mistake, or you have the opportunity, I should say, to start making a mistake. But Crowder there just seemed like the tyres were simply too hot on the exit of turn 3. Crowder though just easing that car into the second stint, it seems. I think a little bit perturbed maybe by that moment that we saw, just thinking about the long game, which is a valid strategy in these GT3 cars. If you can keep the tyres alive, if you can bed them in nicely, it really does reward you in the latter stages of the race. On screen at the moment, you see Clark's pace in comparison to Majowski, and Majowski just, you know, anywhere between 7/10 and half a second quicker than Clark over the last 4 laps or so, and that doesn't really have any sign of stopping any time soon. Clark just not finding the pace in that BMW at the moment, but will Clark come alive as the fuel burns off as we head into the latter stages of the race? Almost collects a cone actually, Clark, on the entrance to the turn 11 chicane. That won't help your aerodynamic performance one bit. You can just about see Majowski, the race leader, in the distance, but that will be getting further and further away as the laps progress. And if you are Spencer Clark, it is fairly disheartening when you're at the wheel just to see your main opposition just slowly eke out a gap. It's one thing to be lapped at, or to be gapped at a great rate of knots, and you can sort of put it down to, you know, just the driver just maybe having a different setup to you, maybe just more skilled, better. But when it's a few tenths a lap, or even sort of 6-7 tenths, it can really, really hurt. But Clark doing a superb job, and some really good points for him in this championship. Race number 7 of a 10 race season. And David Shively, it's his turn to come into the pits. That's just like a little bit of damage to the front end of his car. I think we might find out what went wrong. Oh, he's touched the grass on the entrance to Canada Corner. That's a huge accident. Actually, he's done very, very well there. He's returned back to the pits, but it's also easy to actually get caught in those tyre barriers. They sort of grab onto you and hold you on for dear life. So as much of a dramatic accident as Shively had there, it's almost the better of two evils, because if you get stuck in the barriers, you almost certainly have to tow, and you can end up with some pretty nasty suspension damage. Tetzlaff, though, in 4th place, with McCarthy just managing to extend his gap. That gap now up to 2.4 seconds, and Hancock now starting to come in to his own last lap. Hancock was about 1/10 of a second faster than Tetzlaff. Tetzlaff no longer has the benefit of the slipstream off McCarthy. I think Tetzlaff looking a little bit vulnerable. Spencer Clark as well. He's been off at turn 8. And Spencer Clark, we were just saying, you know, just needed to keep it on the road, keep it smooth, and, you know, you could just about see Majowski in the race lead. Well, that's come all undone for him through turn 8. Let's ride. Well, let's have a look and see what happened with him. Let's ride off board. So he hits the brakes for turn 8. He just runs a little bit onto the curb, which is all fine, but doesn't manage to get off the curb before the curb ends and the grass begins. And the grass does not have as much grip as the curb does, or I think as the drivers would like. So Clark really finding that one out the hard way. A very easy mistake to make around this Road America circuit. But thankfully, if you are Spencer Clark, the gap behind him was such that he hasn't lost any positions, just a little bit of race time. McCarthy now 6.5 seconds off the back of Clark. So 24 minutes, almost 25 minutes of racing gone in this race today. 20 minutes left to go. John, we have got a mandatory pit stop, so we're going to have to see all the drivers in. Would your strategy be, you know, run for as long as you can, try and drive as many laps as possible on low fuel and then come into the pits? Or would you like to get it done early and just sort of get it out of the way so you can focus on getting to the end of the race?
I think in a series like this, I would be looking to try and just stay in clean air. We've seen it with a few cars now where when they're put under pressure, you just start to see the mistakes creep out. So I would be just looking to run my own race, do my own laps. I don't really want to be pushing myself in a race like this. You really just want to do your own thing. We've seen it with Spencer Clark where he can see P1 slowly eking away and he just tries to push that a little bit harder and then you see the mistake come out. And ultimately it's cost him a huge chunk of time. And it could even see him battling with McCarthy for P2. So yeah, I'd be trying to just stay away from all the cars basically. I think that's the safest strategy, and I think come the end of the race, the people that have run the cleanest race will be the ones at the top.
I think you're certainly right. We're seeing that play out very much at the moment with Masajowski, you know, keeping his nose clean, keeping his powder dry in the opening few laps and coming out with the best position on the grid. Especially Hancock, the number 51, the only as I said, the only non-German manufacturer car in today's proceedings. Very nice to see the Ferrari 488. Of course, we had the new Evo version semi-recently into iRacing. How time flies. I still remember when that was a brand new car and the hottest thing in iRacing. But it's just such an easy car to drive, is the Ferrari. It's very compliant. It's not super good in terms of its long-term tyre wear. It's a little bit harder on the tyres than other cars, but you cannot deny its amazing turn in and its ability to ride curves. It's a very nice car. Ashley Hancock pulls into the pits. So does Charlie McCarthy. So two drivers, I think, trying to find a little bit of clean air. Certainly that's the case for Hancock. I think McCarthy maybe just wanting to play it a little bit safer in today's race. Tetzloff, though, goes through to complete at least another lap. So does Casey Waters. And Waters has not been into the pit, so that's crucial for him. Gunter has already stopped in this race, and it's possible he could get to the end, but Waters is going to have to come into the pit, so this is not a representative place for Waters, our second place man on the grid today. I think Casey will be absolutely gutted. Charlie McCarthy comes out of the pits. So does Ashley Hancock. The Ferrari, unlike their Formula One counterparts, managing to have a fairly decent pit stop. Everything was ready for him at the pit box. And Hancock comes out still in 6th place. McCarthy ahead of him. Crowder behind. And what can the American driver do? And the next phase of this race, 28.5 minutes gone out of this 45-minute race today around Road America. Not too much action heading out on the track at the moment, so I think we're going to have a new feature here at the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Euro Road Series. I think, John, have you managed to find out an interesting fact about Road America?
Oh, you've put me on the spot here. I've got some facts lined up, but I've not read through them yet, as we are seeing some more pit stops. P1 and P2, Majewski and Clark have come in here. So I think we'll leave the facts for a minute.
I think that's a perfect time, just as we start thinking about, you know, how to fill the time. Track action certainly heats off. So Masajowski, Clark and Tetzloff, your top three all into the pits. Waters as well follows suit. Shively, although is in the pits, I think is out of today's proceedings. Shively after that incident. So as Zajowski stops in the pit box, he will be the first to leave the pits. There he goes. Very quick stop. That's some 16 seconds worth of fuel gone into his Mercedes car. You see Clark and Tetzlaff in the background with Waters just coming to a stop. Clark, the next one off pit exit. So that BMW still remains in second place, even after the mistake we saw from him through turn number 8. Then we have to look back. Casey Waters in third. He's going to need a really quick pit stop to get ahead of the Mercedes. Cannot do it. McCarthy into third with Tetzlaff in fourth. Look at that. Hancock made up a whole chunk of time on Tetzlaff. That gap now down to half a second. Hancock will have a little bit more of an understanding of the characteristics of his car after putting in enough fuel to get to the end. Tetzlaff very much driving into the unknown at this phase of the race. Hancock in the slipstream. That Ferrari should be a little bit quicker in a straight line. Can he use the slipstream to his advantage? Can he pull to the inside? Can Hancock make his way past Tetzlaff? They stamp on the brakes into turn 5, and Hancock still remains in 5th place. Sorry, Tetzlaff remains in 4th. Hancock remains in 5th place with Waters in the background in 6th. We're going to have a very intriguing battle for 4th place overall. Hoyos as well, he's come in to the pit, so it's very much pit stop time here today. 31 minutes of racing, just under 15 minutes to go. And what can Hancock do? What can that Ferrari do? And don't count out Waters as well. Our second quickest qualifying time posted today. And Waters in that Audi. It's Mercedes versus Ferrari versus Audi. All we need is a BMW in there, and we'd have all of the manufacturers on the grid in today's race involved in this scrap for 4th. But I think Hancock's just starting to back off Tetzlaff at the moment. I wonder if that's a little bit of a strategy, just, you know, sort of pounce a little bit later on in the race. 13 minutes left to go. But what an amazing track that we are racing at today. Road America, John. I mean, it's such an infamous track, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. It's one of the great tracks of America, and it's a shame to see it sort of dropping off of some of the real-life calendars. We've seen it this year, particularly. But yeah, to drive, it's so much fun. The racing's always great. As you say, the draft just adds a different element which you don't really get at different tracks. As we see a lap car come out ahead of who's that, McCarthy or Tetzlaff? Yeah, it's such a great track, and it's so challenging as a driver as well. We've seen it, obviously we've seen it so many times in this race, how challenging it is. But yeah, it just adds a different dynamic. It's difficult to explain, but yeah, as a driver, it's always a great one to come to.
Yeah, I could certainly imagine. I tell you what, I don't think Hoyer will be making too many friends with Hancock. Tetzlaff very much able just to find his way through. Oh, contact made between Hoyos and Hancock. They both managed to keep it facing in the right direction, but that all started through turn 3, and Hoyos is going to have to take most of the blame, I think, for that one. Oh, and wide goes Hancock as well. The Ferrari driver's day goes from bad to worse. And Hancock, I think, maybe picking up a little bit of damage from the contact with Hoyos, but as I was saying, Hoyos very much responsible. Didn't really allow Hancock to find his way through. It's really the gentlemanly thing to do. Just get out of the way, especially when you've got two drivers involved in a battle. And Waters finding his way through. Hancock down into 6th place. Waters up into 5th with Tetzlaff remaining in 4th. We ride on board with Hoyer. So he lets the Ferrari go. So that's all fairly standard. And then Hoyos is just simply broke too late. He's applied the brakes too late. I think a little bit of fuel saving going on there for good measure. But you normally tend to say that it's the driver's behind responsibility to not make contact going into a braking zone. Hancock off the track once again. This time, I think, tries to allow Hoyos by. They're going to go side by side. This is not for position. Hoyos a lap down, but Hancock not having the lap that he would have wanted. Just over 10 minutes left to go in today's proceeding. Hancock now finds himself in 6th place with 9th place between himself and Waters. Waters, though, finding a whole bunch of pace, was almost 2 seconds quicker than Tetzlaff on that last tour of the Road America circuit. 7/10 now separating those two, with Hancock just falling further and further down the order, or further and further off the back of Hoyos, I should say. Oh, while that was going on, Masajowski almost 17 seconds separating himself and Clark. Been an absolutely dream race for your championship leader, the number 93, and you can all see really where that time was gained between Masajowski and Clark. So, you know, Clark had a quicker in lap, was 9/10 of a second quicker. That's that 2-minute 47 that you see on lap 14. But then 3 seconds, Masajowski was quicker than Clark on lap 15 and almost 7 seconds on lap 11. I think lap 11 was where we saw Clark made that little bit of a mistake into turn 8. And Masajowski doing a superb job. Finished 10th at Belle-Isle 1 week ago. So really a return to form for him. Casey Waters very much on the back of Tetzlaff. They head through the turn 11 chicane, through what should be the kink corner right now. Waters almost pushing the Mercedes of Tetzlaff along. Tetzlaff, he's going to have to defend to the inside if he wants to keep this position. He does, but Waters has got more speed. They're going to go side by side down towards turn 12, Canada corner. Waters gets all the way around the outside. Can he get it slowed down? Yes, he can. Waters finds himself back up into 4th place. Tetzlaff demoted to 5th with Hancock. I mean, he would have been sort of in that vicinity if it wasn't for those mistakes he made on the last lap. So Tetzlaff very firm in his 5th place, or secure in his 5th place at the moment. Waters in 4th, and last lap Waters was a little bit quicker than McCarthy in 3rd, but not enough to really gain an advantage. We'll scrap that. 1.5 seconds. He was quicker on that previous tour. Can Waters reduce those arrears and find himself back up into 3rd? That would be an amazing recovery drive from Waters, won't it, John? You know, that mistake at turn 1, if he can get a podium, I think he'll come away from this race fairly happy.
Absolutely, yeah. He's shown he's had great pace all race. It is a big gap to reel in, 6 seconds. But on that last lap alone, he was 1.5 seconds quicker. So it's definitely not out of the question. Was that Crowder in the wall, out of the infamous chicane that we've got here at Road America again. But yeah, Waters certainly 3rd place is on for him, but he's just got to keep putting in the consistent lap times. Any mistake is just going to hinder him, and he's really only got a few laps to get up to the back of McCarthy, because we've seen that overtaking hasn't quite been as easy as we thought it would be.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We've not seen as many overtakes as I think we were necessarily expecting. I just wonder, you know, if that chicane may be playing a little bit of a role. Turn 12, Canada corner is normally quite a good overtaking opportunity, and that chicane sort of separates the cars out before they really get onto the run towards turn 12. So Casey Waters in 4th place. The gap is already down to 5.5 seconds, so he's managed to reduce the gap by a second on this lap so far. Casey Waters is a keen freeline skating enthusiast. I think he might be picking up a little bit of scar tissue when it comes to that. His favourite band, by the way, is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And if you're thinking, Sebastian, how do you know all of this? Are you stalking Casey Waters on any form of social media? You can actually go to the SDK Gaming website, and you can download a driver information app, and you can enter all these little facts that commentators can use. So if you are going to, or think you're going to be part of a broadcasted race, I would recommend doing that. Tell you what, while we're mentioning SDK, why don't I tell you about their overlays? You can add a virtual live HUD to iRacing. You can show timing towers, enhance relative boxes, mini maps, fuel calculators, and much, much more. If you stream to Twitch, then you'll have the most complete overlay on iRacing. Or if you want to broadcast your league or series, SDK syncs your commentary team's cameras. You can focus and drive with your overlay with your broadcaster. And you can also adjust your team strategy on the fly with the most accurate live timing on iRacing. So you can check out SDK Gaming at the link below in the YouTube description. And if you haven't already taken out an SDK Gaming license, you can get a 14-day free trial. There you see McCarthy reducing the gap to Waters by 1.2 seconds on the last lap. John, I think you're a little bit better than mental maths than I am. Does he have enough time? Does he have enough laps to be able to get up to McCarthy at this current pace?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that. I want to say it's going to be close. That's what I'll say. It's going to be close, and I reckon if he's going to do it, it's going to be on the last lap.
Last lap standoff. I could get behind that. 5 minutes left to go. Actually, 4 minutes really of racing. I think it's all going to be about where does Masajowski find the white flag. So if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, once you either cross the line after the 45 minutes have gone, or if there isn't enough time to complete another lap before the time ticks over to 45 minutes, the white flag will show. That's 1 lap to go, and the next time you come across the start-finish line, that will be race done and dusted. So Majowski, I mean, he almost is at a point where he can back off, do what they do in Formula E, just to conserve a little bit of energy, just conserve a little bit of fuel, just really manage the pace. So I think Waters is very much going to rely on where Majowski is on the track. Waters, that time around, only 0.4 of a second quicker than McCarthy, and that is not enough. Even with my shoddy mental maths, I know that McCarthy is going to need, Waters is going to need more than 0.4 of a second a lap to catch McCarthy in the remaining time at today's race. This is your race leader, Brandon Majowski, heading down towards turn number 8, where we've seen a few drivers become a cropper today, but Brandon keeps it very firmly between the white lines. Through the carousel he goes. He's about, what, halfway through his lap at the moment, so I think we're going to have at least another lap of racing, maybe just 2 if we're feeling particularly lucky. I'm not quite sure if Brandon would want an extra lap, actually. You know, he's been out there dominating, he's clearly enjoying himself out on the track, but he might be a little bit lonely out there. His fastest lap, in fact, is almost a full second quicker than the next fastest lap, and that goes to Spencer Clark. Brandon Masajowski's fastest lap time, a 2-minute 14.4. Sorry, a 2-minute 12.95, I should say, with Spencer Clark with a 13.9, so almost a second. I think we will not have 2 extra laps. I think Masajowski just timed it perfectly. Will cross the line. Should see the white flag. There you see Barney flying the flag. 1 lap to go. He is not surrendering to anything. He is only informing the drivers that we have 1 more lap of action to go. Majowski through turn 1, neat and tidy. Got a little bit of lap traffic up ahead of him. That's Ralph Crowder, I do believe. I think he might just about catch him towards the latter stages of the lap. But I don't think Brandon will mind too much. He's got such a big gap behind him, he can just simply pull in and just survive to the end of the race. Clark crosses the start-finish line as well. 1 lap to go for him. McCarthy and Waters, they start their final lap as well. I think Waters a little bit too far off, although on that last lap, 13.9 for Waters, so finding a lot of pace out on the track just a little bit too late. Runs, oh, that's the car running very wide through turn 7, and that's Crowder. Crowder now starting to get in the way of Masajowski. Masajowski tries to find a way through on the outside, can't do it. Lap traffic now certainly interfering the Mercedes drivers' race. Is he going to try and go all the way around the outside of the carousel? Oh, he pushes him wide and he spins! Masajowski spins on the final lap. Clark will be barreling down towards him. I don't think Majowski has lost enough time to really gain or to lose a position, I should say. Clark, there you can see at the moment, Majowski very much underway once again, but another incident with a lap traffic, and Crowder, I think, drifted wide through the carousel. You're not really entitled. It doesn't work like in Formula 1 with the blue flags. You know, we have to jump out of the way, but it is almost the racer's code just to get out of the way, especially if it's the leader on the final lap. Not really much you can do. And of course, if you get lapped, you simply do one lap less. It's a quicker way of ending the race. So the gap between Masajowski and Clark now down to 7 seconds. And I tell you what, if Clark hadn't have made that mistake into turn 8, we could be looking at an absolute grandstand finish. But in the end, none of that's really going to matter. Masajowski, after qualifying 5th, had the dream start. 2 of his competitors spinning out through turn 1. He's kept it clean. He's kept it on the track for almost all of the 45 minutes. Crosses the line with a flash of the lights for good measure, and he wins round number 7. Clark comes across the line for a very well-deserved 2nd place. He's up 2 places from where he started, and McCarthy will finish in 3rd. Waters, though, getting that gap down to 9/10 of a second on the final lap. A flash of the lights from the Audi driver, I think a little bit of frustration with a 13.8. I think McCarthy made a mistake on that final lap. Tetzloff in 5th, with Hancock finishing in 6th place. There he is, the only Ferrari in today's proceedings. And then Gunter will finish in 7th place, but he's some 41 seconds, John, off the back of Hancock. But that was a thoroughly enjoyable race. GT3 around Road America never fails to deliver.
Certainly, and the Shake and Bake League as well. Every race that I have seen from the Shake and Bake League has been thoroughly entertaining all the way through, and this one was no exception. I don't know what it is, but the drivers just seem to be so evenly matched, and there's always battles developing throughout the race. Especially, you know, the last lap there, crazy into the race, could have been a switch for the lead. Like you said, if Clark hadn't made that mistake earlier, could have been very different. But yeah, very, very entertaining race today.
Very entertaining indeed. We just wait for the rest of the drivers to come across the finishing line. Gunter has found his way, and it's all eyes on Ralph Crowder, the number 58. Ironically, if he'd have let Masajowski go through, he would have been done by this point of the race. I wonder if there'll be a few stern words in the paddock after. Masajowski very rightly saying, "You could have cost me my race result today," but Ralph Crowder comes across the line to finish 8th in today's race. Superb drive from him. So top 3, Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes. Could have had 3 manufacturers in the top 3 if it wasn't for Waters' issue. Hoyos deciding just to do a full-in lap. Of course, the beauty of sim racing. Oh, he spins on the exit. He's going to find the wall. And he'll be glad that he did that on his way to the pits rather than under race conditions. I was going to say, though, that's the beauty of sim racing. You don't really have to do all of the formalities of driving to the grid, driving away from the grid. You just really just have to end up... You can just park up and hit the tow button. But let's bring you your race results. And Brandon Masajowski, your race winner. 7.847 seconds separates himself and Spencer Clark in 2nd. Charlie McCarthy 3rd. Casey Waters in 4th. Nathan Tetzloff 5th. Ashley Hancock 6th. Brody Gunter in 7th after starting on the pole position. Made that mistake. Got collected by another car. He'll be lucky. I think he'll feel lucky, I should say, to finish in 7th place. Ralph Crowder in 8th. John Hoyos in 9th, with Davis Shively retiring 9 laps ago. And I'll tell you what, we've managed to find a few drivers to have just a little bit of an interview with, and managed to find Spencer Clark. Of course, Spencer Clark finished in 2nd place in today's race. Spencer, welcome to the commentary booth. I have to ask you this: do you think if you hadn't have made that mistake heading into turn 8, you could have maybe challenged for the win on the final lap with Wojciechowski also making that mistake?
Thank you for asking. That's actually exactly what I had thought to myself. After what I saw with Casey and Brody on lap 2, I knew it was going to be a race of attrition from there on out, and I was just a couple mistakes short of possibly being able to challenge. I knew for a fact I didn't have Brandon on pace tonight, so it was disappointing to not at least be there to fight for it at the end.
It certainly seemed that way, but it looked really tricky out there. Many drivers struggling. Was the track temperature really high? It was in the high 90s, if I recall. I mean, that's pretty difficult in terms of track grip.
It wasn't too far out as far as I'm concerned. It's felt pretty normal to me, actually. I didn't get a whole lot of practice this week, but it felt right at home.
Fair enough. Well, I'll rescind that statement. So, are you happy with second place? I mean, it's good points in the championship, or are you going to go from this race, happy with second, or a little bit gutted that you couldn't have made it one higher?
No, again, this season for me too is also one of attrition. I've made several mistakes that were race ending already and earlier in the season, so I'll be happy enough with second place.
Fair enough. Well, before we let you go and celebrate your second place victory, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all on the broadcast?
Oh, not at this point. I do invite, however, if there are people out there watching who thought this was a pretty good show, next season coming up for the Shake and Bake Racing League or the Road Series is our 10th anniversary season. Not 10 years naturally, but 10 seasons running. And we're going to go back to our roots with a little bit of F4 and a little bit of Skip Barber. So if you're interested on getting us to sign up, go ahead and just give us a shout. Let us know.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, certainly echo those sentiments. Well, Spencer, thank you very much for coming to have a chat with us in the commentary booth, and congratulations on your second place.
Appreciate that. Thanks again for all you do.
Absolutely no worries. And that was your second place man. And John, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find our race winner. We said
I do have an update on that. No, he has to run to work almost every night, so he's like the Batman. Get in, get out, get done.
That's
we'll
good
pass
to know.
on your congratulations to Brandon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Spencer. So, John, rounding out the race, we said it was wall-to-wall action. It was really good. Road America never fails to deliver. I'm going to give you the really hard job in the end of summing up that race in a few words or so.
Ooh, I'd have to say chaotic, many instances, but thoroughly enjoyable overall. We were hooked the entire race. Obviously not the biggest grid here with the shake and bake, but what they lack in quantity, they made up for in quantity for sure. But yeah, that race was crazy from start to finish.
It certainly was, and fortunately it's week 13, so not too much action heading on to your Apex Racing TV YouTube channel, although we do have a few more broadcasts. The ARL Truck Series returns on Sunday, that's it, 7 p.m. UTC, and the SRF Weekend Warriors Week 13 race, that starts at 7:45 UTC. That is all from us today at the Road America circuit. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back with the Shake and Bake later on in the series, but until then, I think on the 27th in fact, but until then, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.